Hi, I'm Regular Zach, and this is my limited set review for the Magic the Gathering crossover set with Avatar: The Last Airbender. And today we are talking about all the black cards. So this is a set review for limited. That means draft and sealed. We are not talking about these cards in the context of standard or commander. So don't think about any of that stuff. It's all limited all the time. Now, I'm going to be putting all these black cards on a scale from A to F. So A's are bombs. They're the best cards in your deck. They're the coolest ones, the ones you show off to your friends and they win you a bunch of games. B's are cards that actively pull you into this color. So if you see this card in like pack 5 or something, you're like, ooh, black might be open. I'll go over there. C's are the bread and butter of your deck. It's the majority of what you're going to be playing. So they're all like, nice, but they're not, super exciting. And then D's are cards you actively hope are not in your deck. They're like, oh, I guess I kind of have to play this card. That's not that great. Oof. And then F's are cards that are they just don't work. They don't function in draft at all. They're only for constructed or like, a different format. So we're going to start off with the commons. We have Callous Inspector is a single black for a 1/1 creature human soldier, has menace. It says when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to you and you create a clue token. Okay, great. There is a white-black sacrifice deck in this format, as well as this could go into like a Rakdos deck as well. Just the menace would be kind of nice. But dying into a clue token is very helpful because we have things that care about artifacts, specifically like water bending. That's really helpful. This creature dies, and then you have something that you get to sacrifice. So anything that cares about you sacrificing things will be great with this as well. So I think this is probably like a nice card. I don't think it like really hits to like the C+, where you're actually kind of like, it's one of the best ones. But I think in the decks that it fits into, primarily white-black, this card's going to be pretty good. Overall, I'm just going to give it a C, though, because I don't think we care that much in like black-green or black-blue. Black-blue maybe because we want clue tokens, but in general, I think this is really just a black-white card, and we'll move on from there. But C for the Callous Inspector. Next up, we have Deadly Precision, which is a single black for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, pay 4 or sacrifice an artifact or creature, and you destroy target creature. Again, this goes really well in those white-black decks, just because you're going to have hopefully a lot of creatures to sacrifice or artifacts. Literally the card we just saw like pairs perfectly with this. But in a bunch of other decks, we're not going to be super excited to play this Deadly Precision. I think it's a good card, and it's nice that you get to, there's a versatility of sacrificing creature, artifact, or paying mana. It is a sorcery, though, so it doesn't work in combat. So you don't get to use any firebending mana to pay for the 4. So you're really just kind of, it's just like we've seen this card before. It tends to be good if the white-black or the sacrifice deck is good, whether that's Rakdos or white-black. And yeah, so I think overall this is probably like a C+. It does kill anything, and it does cost 1 mana sometimes, if you're fine with sacrificing a token or whatever. So C+ for Deadly Precision. Next up, we have Azula Always Lies, which is 1 in a black for an instant it's a lesson, and it says choose one or both. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So this is kind of like a souped-up version of Skullduggery, which we got in Ixalan a while ago. I think it was also reprinted in another set, but I can't remember which one, which was like a combat trick for 1 black mana, which gave a creature -1/-1 and another creature +1/+1. So this is a pretty interesting combat trick because you do get to win a lot of combats randomly, but the fact that you do get a +1/+1 counter is really nice, and it adds to some synergies that we see in some of the cards. Overall, I think it's fine. Skullduggery, the last time we saw it, wasn't phenomenal, even though it was really good the first time we saw it. But after that, it kind of loses its luster. And 2 mana on this makes it a little weaker. However, I'm going to bump it up just a teeny bit because it is a lesson, and there are certain archetypes that care about having lessons in your graveyard. I don't think black specifically does, but you never know when that'll kind of pop up if you're in like a blue-black deck or something like that. So I'm going to give this just like a C. I think we will probably think about this card when we're going into combat, but I don't, it could be a C- in the end, but I think it's still playable. Next up, we have Corrupt Court Official, one of my favorite types of cards. It's 1 in a black for a 1/1 human creature advisor. It's a creature that's a human advisor. That's what it is. And when this creature enters, target opponent discards a card. This is fantastic in those sacrifice decks. This is like your bread and butter. You want like turn 2, play this, make them discard a card. Then you have this guy just sitting there. He's kind of useless. You really want to sacrifice him because he already did what he needed to do on the way in. Really like this card. It specifically goes in the white-black deck, and in some formats, this can be like a phenomenal card in most decks, but I don't think we want to play this in like... Rakdos is okay with it, Golgari doesn't really care, and Dimir could be fine because they want an early play that does, they want to win with card advantage, so maybe it fits in that as well, but definitely an Orzhov card. So this is still like a C+, though. I do like this effect a lot, maybe more than I should, but I think it's always good. Sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's just good. I think this format, it might be just good, but I do like it. Next up is Daily Indoctrination, which is 1 and a black for a sorcery lesson. It says choose one. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land permanent card from it. That player discards that card, or you can earthbend 2. And earthbending means you choose a land that you control, you make it a creature, it has haste, and then you put counters on it equal to the number after the earthbend. In this case, it's 2. And then if it would die, it just goes back to the battlefield. So you don't have to worry about getting stone rained or anything like that. So this is a pretty interesting card. It is kind of like the Corrupt Court Official, except for you have to choose one or the other. You get a better creature, 2/2 obviously better than just the 1/1, but also it's a better discard spell if you use it as a discard spell because you do get to choose something. It has to be a permanent that's a non-land, so there is a possibility to whiff, and a lot of the time, like this will go in, like obviously it rips out your opponent's threats. That's really all it does. Because sometimes when you're looking at your opponent's hand, it is nice to just snag the removal spell. If you're like, if we're playing this in Golgari, you want to like take out the removal spell because you have the bigger creatures. But if you're playing this in like Dimir, you want to get rid of their threats so you don't have to worry about them and use any of your removal on it. You also get to make sure they don't get their ETBs and stuff like that. So I think this is flexible enough. I like this card. 2 mana is awesome for a discard card like this. And I think there's there's something going on here. It's also a lesson, so who knows? I'm going to give this like a C+. I really like this card. I was pretty surprised to see it. And I want to see more cards that have duality between like being able to make your opponent discard or putting your own threat on the battlefield, which is essentially like, I mean, a 2/2, it's still, it can still win the game. So yeah, I like this a lot. C+. Next up, we have Merchant of Many Hats. It's 1 and a black for a 2/2 creature, human, peasant, ally. You can pay 2 and a black to return this card from your graveyard to your hand. Pretty expensive. I don't, this is kind of like the, Orzhov decks. You sacrifice it, you bring it back. It can chump forever. You just have to spend 5 mana to do that whole thing. And I never think they're that good. I think it's a 2 mana 2/2, and that's nice. So this gets like a C-. It's not unplayable. I think it will sneak its way into your deck. But I don't think we're going to prioritize this card, but I don't think I'm going to feel horrible playing one of them. If I have too many of them, they go really, really down. So I'm going to give this a C-, but it could end up being just like a D. Next up, we have Hog Monkey. There's a bunch of creatures that are like two creature types. It doesn't really look like a boar, though. But anyway, it's a 2 and a black for a 3/2 creature boar monkey. But it kind of just looks like a monkey. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it gains menace, and it has exhaust. So one time, you can pay 5 mana to put 2 +1/+1 counters on this creature. And then, of course, this becomes a 5/4 that has menace during combat. So 8 mana total for a 5/4 menace, but you get to pay it over time. Exhaust is actually a pretty good ability. When we had it in Aether Drift, it was like one of the best things you could be doing was exhausting stuff. And having access to like, your 3-drop is this thing that could trade off. It has some synergies with all the earthbending stuff, so you can give your land creatures menace, which is kind of nice. I think overall this will probably play closer to like a C. But it could be better than we think, especially in those earthbending decks. So like Golgari will be happy to play this card. Nice key with the art. It's green and black, so that's very helpful to tell us that it's good and green. Anyway, C for the Hog Monkey. Next up, we have Pirate Peddlers, which is 2 and a black for a 2/2 creature human pirate. It has Death Touch, and it says whenever you sacrifice another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. This is also kind of an interesting card because most of the time you don't really care that much about your Death Touch creature getting bigger. You care more about a different creature getting bigger that you're trying to avoid Death Touch little creatures. Like, sometimes a big Death Touch creature can be nice because if they, double block in a way that only one of their creatures would die, Death Touch makes sure that it kills it. But it is kind of a strange thing. I also don't like that it says whenever you sacrifice something. It's not just when something dies. When something dies or goes to the graveyard or something, it feels a lot better because there's a lot more utility you could do with it. It can just grow during combat. But when it says sacrifice, it has to be like artifacts, or you have to use another card most of the time for this ability to trigger. So ultimately, this is like a 3-mana 2/2 Death Touch, which I think is probably just like a C minus. I think it's fine. Death Touch is a great ability, and a 3-mana 2/2 one. I just like the ones that surveil or the ones that gain you life or do other things besides try to grow bigger. In general, whenever there's a card that's like, oh, when this happens, put a +1/+1 counter on this thing. Especially the black ones just don't seem to do anything. So C minus for the Pirate Peddlers. Death Touch. If this didn't have Death Touch, it would be like a D. Next up, we have Swamp Snare Trap. It's 2 and a black for an enchantment aura. It says this spell costs 1 less to cast if it targets a creature with flying. So it would cost 2 mana. And enchanted creature gets -5/-3. So either you kill something, or you just neuter it. I think most of the Appas are 4/4s, so it just becomes an 0/1. Obviously, I say Appa because the art is Appa getting swamp snared. But yeah, this seems perfectly fine. It's obviously the thing that's supposed to like beat up on the white-blue decks because it can kill most everything for just 2 mana, which is pretty cool. So that'll be really helpful, but if you're casting it for 3 and not killing something, it really feels pretty bad. So, I think this is kind of like a C. It seems like an okay removal spell, but really not a great one. But honestly, some of the removal isn't very great in the set in general. So maybe it does bump up to like a C+, because there aren't a ton of other options. Like, we haven't really seen one yet. And usually, I guess Azula always lies. It kills X1s, but ultimately, I think it's like a C, but it could be a C+ if removal is really hard to come by. So I'm going to stick with C for the moment. Next up, we have Foggy Swamp Hunters, which is 3 and a black for a 3/4 creature human ranger ally. It says, as long as you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn, this creature has lifelink and menace. So this is supposed to go in the blue-black deck. That's the one that cares the most about drawing 2 cards every turn. But this payoff is not what I'm looking for. 4 mana 3/4 that sometimes have lifelink and menace. You gain a little bit of life. It doesn't actually trade with a bunch of stuff that easily. Like, it trades with something, but if they double block it because of the menace, since it only has 3 power, it's not necessarily going to always kill 2 things. If they block with 2 2/2s, you only get to kill one of them, so how great is that? It doesn't gain any power when you draw the second card. I think this is a D. I don't think you want to play this card. It seems pretty bad to me. Yeah, I don't really like this. I hope I don't have to play this really ever. Next up, we have Sold Out, which is 3 and a black for an instant. Exile target creature. If it was dealt a damage this turn, you create a clue token. The damage part of this is so interesting because I don't know how we're dealing damage without just like losing a card. So I don't know if it's just like you attack with a bunch of stuff and then they block like a 1/1 or something and you lose that and then you get to kill their creature and then get a clue token, which then draws you another card, which is supposed to replace the one that dealt the damage. It's kind of weird. It also works in like if your opponent's attacking you with a big creature, you can chump with your little token and then instant speed exile it. I don't know. It's kind of strange. If there's like a way, if we're playing red and we have a way to like deal 1 damage to everything or something like that, but then you have to have another card and, is it really worth it to do all that just to get a clue token? In the end, I think this card is actually really good. It is the removal spell that we need. It is 4 mana, instant speed, but it is exile. And every once in a while you get the clue token. I don't think that's going to happen that often. But who knows? Maybe there's a lot of like in Rakdos, you're attacking with your Firebenders, and your opponent can't really tell. Are they attacking into my creature because they're like firebending? They just want the mana. Like you do get to attack with a Firebender, have some mana. Your opponent then eats it, and then you get to use some of the red mana from that to deal with this. It's kind of interesting. I do think this is still like a C plus. It's probably like the best black common. So it probably also just trends to, this is actually probably a B minus. This is the card that you're looking for as far as your commons go, where you're like, all right, well, we do have these, because the rest of the removal just doesn't seem that great. And 4 mana exile a creature is good. So yeah, I just don't think the clue thing is going to happen all that often, but I'd really like to have a clue. I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to get that clue. It's such an interesting card. Next up, we have Beetle-Headed Merchants, which is 4 and a black for a 5/4 creature human citizen. It says, whenever this creature attacks, you may sacrifice another creature or artifact. If you do, draw a card and put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Oh, okay. This is the kind of thing that we're happy with in our Orzhov deck, or even our blue-black deck if we have like clues laying around. We're like, yeah, this is my threat. I'm attacking you. It attacks as a 6/5. I draw a card, If I can't sacrifice things with this, I'm obviously going to be very unhappy. But any card that says draw a card is pretty exciting. I think this is probably like a C+, because it does get really big and it does do things that we want. Hopefully this isn't your only threat, but I do like cards that you do get what you need out of this. Like when you sacrifice an artifact or a creature and you get to draw a card, that's big game, right? Unfortunately, it's only on attacks, but I think this creature is big enough that you're super happy with it. Yeah, C+ for the Beetle-Headed Merchants. Next up, we have Canyon Crawler, the last common for black. It's 4 black for a 6/6 creature spider beast. It has Death Touch. It says when this creature enters, create a food token, and it has swamp cycling for 2. So you can pay 2 mana and go discard this and go get a swamp from your deck, put it in your hand. All right, so 6 mana, 6/6, you get a food token. Having the actual token on the battlefield is really helpful. I like that a lot. But for 6 mana, it just doesn't seem that exciting. And once again, we have this giant Death Touch creature, which is kind of strange, where at least this is a 6/6, so like it's really hard for them not to lose a bunch of creatures to deal with this. But still, it's like, I don't know. I guess technically you're kind of gaining life when it enters because you can, sack the food. So maybe it's stabilizing you a little bit, but it's not really drawing you a card. I think the swamp cycling is not that exciting. Reanimating this, which is a lot of times when we're looking at like the black and the green cyclers, like the land cyclers, you're looking to see if you can reanimate it, and this one doesn't seem that exciting of a target because you're not really ripping any cards out of your opponent's hand. You're not dealing them damage immediately. You're not drawing cards. I think this is probably like a D+. It's like a D, but like in a pinch, if you really feel like you need swamp cycling, you can play it, but I feel like these cards are not really good anymore. They're almost like a trap. So yeah, this one, usually the black one I'm kind of more excited about, but this one I really don't care for. I don't know. I just don't think it's very good. Next up, we have the uncommons. This is Northern Air Temple. It's a single black for a legendary enchantment, Shrine. It says when Northern Air Temple enters, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of shrines you control. And it says whenever another shrine you control enters, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Great. So we are talking about the Shrine deck in general. This is a multicolor deck. There's 1 uncommon shrine in each color. And then you're probably base like green, blue. And then this is one of the ones that you really need to have because it actually wins you the game. But they are all legendary. So it's like you need 1 of every color. And it's awkward because the white one feels like you don't really need it because it puts counters on your stuff. But this one does kill your opponent. But you do have to figure out how to keep playing it. You know what I mean? Like, I think you want to be airbending your own shrines to then recast them so you get the triggers all over again. I don't know. Like, I do think you want this in that deck. But at the same time, like, it's going to be really hard to kill your opponent with it. It only costs 1, which is nice. But besides that, I don't even know if we really want to do this. I think this is probably like a D. Like outside of the shrine deck, it's horrendous, and in the shrine deck, it's. Originally, I thought you did really need it, but now I don't even know if that deck's going to come together. It feels kind of meh. Um, yeah, I don't know. This doesn't seem great. You do have to do some airbending shenanigans for this to do anything. So kind of unfortunate. But yeah, D for this shrine, man. Since they don't trigger on upkeep, you don't get like incremental value. It's like only when it enters and when more shrines enter. And like you can't play that many of the shrines because you don't really get that much value when you play multiples. I guess when you play another Northern Air Temple, you get to double up the trigger for the turn, but like I don't know. I don't know. D. Next up, we have Zuko's Conviction, which is a single black for an instant. It also has kicker 4, so you could pay 4 extra mana to make this better. It says return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Or if the spell was kicked, instead put that card onto the battlefield tapped. The tapped part is because this is an instant, so you do get to like reanimate instant speed, but you don't get to like ambush anybody. That's usually a good thing. Because it's so brutal when you attack into like 5 black mana and then all of a sudden there's like a giant creature on the battlefield you weren't expecting, and it's just like it just feels bad. So the tap part is really important. So don't forget about that if you're using this. But I think this is great. Like a Raise Dead that turns into a reanimation spell is awesome. And instant speed Raise Dead is great as well. I don't know. This seems like a B-. Like I'm happy for this card. This seems great in Golgari. Seems good in like blue black and Dimir. You could even use it just as a Raise Dead thing for your like Rakdos deck because it's so cheap to get that card back. Like this is a cantrip that just draws you a creature from your graveyard, and it's instant speed, which is awesome as well. I don't know. This card seems great. I'm happy to I want to build decks around this in draft. It makes me very excited. I like reanimation in general, but this one is super cool. Next up, we have Judy, One of Many, which is 1 in a black for a 2/2 creature human advisor. It has an activated ability where you can pay black and tap it to surveil 1, and then you create a token that's a copy of this creature, and then you sacrifice an artifact or creature, activate only as a sorcery. So this is a really strange card because like the surveil ability you can always do, even if you have to sacrifice something. You made a token copy of Judy so that you can just sacrifice that Judy to the sacrifice thing. So you could just pay 1 mana, tap it, surveil 1. You can just keep doing that, and then you get enters and dies triggers. Or if you want to get more and more of them, you can sacrifice other things, which is probably like food tokens or something. So you can get more and more Judys. Really strange card. I don't really know where to put this. I don't think that we have like a Blood Artist type thing in this set, so that would be better if you could pair this up with that, because then every turn you get to just like for 1 mana enter and die. But I think overall it's probably like a C. It's a really cool card though. I like the idea of it, especially because in the show like Judy gets replaced all the time. Like there's all these people who keep introducing themselves as Judy, but they all look different. And they just swap out whichever new one they need. It's very interesting and like spooky, and what a weird creepy thing. But anyway, this card is probably like a C. I don't think it's phenomenal, but I think it's a really cool design. Next up, we have June, Bounty Hunter, which is 1 in a black for a 2/2 legendary creature, human mercenary. It says June can't be blocked as long as you've drawn 2 or more cards this turn, and you can pay 1 mana, sacrifice another creature, and create a clue token, activate only during your turn. So this card, it looks like it's supposed to be in like a Dimir deck, right? Like it really cares about drawing 2 cards because then it's unblockable. It also kind of goes into like the white-black deck because it says you get to sacrifice creatures to make more clues, which you get to sacrifice to then trigger more sacrifice things and make this so it's unblockable. Or, you know, all that stuff. And then also in Rakdos, because you might want to be sacrificing things and getting more value, you do have to sacrifice creatures, which is important, but getting extra damage in is really nice. I don't know. This seems like there's a lot of stuff you could do with this. I think it's worst in Golgari, but all the other decks seem to be kind of interested in this. If you're aggressive, which I tend to lean a little towards aggression. So I think this card's like a C+. I think it's pretty cool. I like all the different things you can do with it. And the fact that if you use June and a creature that has Firebending 3, you get to sacrifice a different creature and crack the clue at the same time so that you also can't be blocked that turn. That's pretty cool. So yeah, June is great. C+. Next up, we have Epic Downfall, which is 1 and a black for a sorcery. Exile target creature with mana value 3 or greater. This is a great removal spell. Sorcery speed is kind of a bummer, but 2 mana to get rid of like their big thing. Exile it. This is a B. This is great. Easy B. Easy. Don't even really need to talk about it much more than that because it's just awesome. Next up, we have Heartless Act, which is 1 and a black for an instant. Choose 1. Destroy target creature with no counters on it, or remove up to 3 counters from target creature. So this either kills, like, obviously a regular creature, or you remove counters from an earthbended creature. That's actually one of the biggest parts about this card in this set. Is that, yes, maybe your counters deck wants to put counters on certain creatures so they survive the Heartless Act. But I still think this is like a B level card. Being able to, like, just get rid of, like, most of the earthbended cards seem to be like, I don't think there's more than earthbend like 4. So earthbend 3 is very common, earthbend 2, so you can just like kill that land creature or just kill whatever other creature they have. I don't know. There's a lot of utility with this card. I think it's great. And it's 2 mana, instant speed, kill something. It's awesome. Yeah, B level removal spell. Next up, we have Fatal Fissure, which is 1 and a black for an instant. Choose target creature. When that creature dies this turn, you earthbend 4. All right. So this is kind of like one of those spells where you, it's usually like 1 black mana and it gives it like +2/+0. And when it dies, you return to the battlefield this turn tapped. And that's kind of what this is playing as. Because this one just says like, you're in combat. It looks like there's going to be a trade. You play this and your creature dies. And then you make a 4/4. It also just says choose target creature, so it doesn't have to be your creature. So like if your opponent is chumping with something, you can then Fatal Fissure it, and then you get a 4/4. So there's some duality with this, but it's very specific. Like you have to be in a very specific situation for this card to be good. And one of the strengths about the other card, the other version where you get to, it dies, it comes back, is that you get all the ETBs again. So that's really nice. So just having like an earthbended 4/4, like, is that good enough? I don't know. 4/4 is pretty big for 2 mana though, so that's very nice. But I can't really tell how fantastic this card is. It feels pretty bad to me. It seems a little bit too situational for it to be consistent. And so I think I'm going to give this a C-. I don't think it's a card that you can't have in your deck. But we could definitely trend that direction where it's like you just shouldn't play this card. But a C-. I want to see where this goes. But it's in another really cool design. There's so many cool designs in this set that I get really excited about them. But I just don't think this one's very good. Next up, we have Fire Nation Engineer, which is 2 and a black for a 2/3 creature human artificer. It has raid. So at the beginning of your end step, if you attacked this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature or vehicle. Another is annoying. I don't like when it says another, but that's a really strong ability. All you need is 1 other creature to do stuff. Attacking in your Rakdos deck is going to be, super easy to do. And I think this really feels like a Rakdos card. It's so good in that, good at 3 mana, and it won't grow itself, of course. But the fact that you just get to keep throwing counters all over the place, and you would want to, because if you're playing against black, there's Heartless Act, so you can make all your like land creatures bigger. There's like other +1/+1 counter synergies and stuff. Yeah, I think this is good. I think this is like a C+. You'll be happy with this. Spinning counters around in an aggressive deck it just always does what you need it to do. If you're blocking, this card's horrible. And if you're behind, it's pretty bad. But even if you're ahead, like you attack with, even if you just have like a board stall, you attack with a terrible creature that might die. Play this post-combat, put a counter on something, hopefully you get the biggest creature at some point. You keep doing that until all your creatures outclass your opponent's creatures. Yeah, so I like it. C+. Next up, we have Wolf Bat, which is 2 and a black for a 2/2 creature Wolf Bat. Surprise. It has flying. It says whenever you draw your second card each turn, you may pay 1. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Cool. So it's a Windrake. It's a 3-mana 2/2 flyer that then dies and can come back in your Dimir deck primarily. Though there are clues all over the place. So it's not like other decks can't draw cards. It just seems like the blue-black deck wants this the most. And it also has the most like flying synergies. So I think this is also pretty good. I don't know if like Windrake on its own isn't perfect, but when you draw your second card and then you just get like 1 mana to get this back is awesome. I think that's really good. Even though you can't do it over and over again, I still think it's like a C+. I'm happy with this card, and I think it will frustrate you to no end, and you will die to the Wolf Bats. Because imagine you have a couple of these in your graveyard, you like crack a clue, pay 2 mana, you get 2 of these back. Like it just, there's so much blow up potential. It's awesome. Wolf Bats, a C+. Next up, we have Fire Nation Trebuchet, which is 2 and a black for a 0/4 artifact creature wall. It has Defender and Reach. And it says whenever you attack, create a 2/1 colorless construct artifact creature token with flying named Ballistic Boulder that's tapped and attacking, and sacrifice that token at the beginning of the next end step. So this card really goes into 2 decks. We're looking at Orzhov because you have a bunch of little things, but you do care about sacrificing stuff. And obviously this will sacrifice something every single turn. It gives you fodder to either sacrifice it to other cards as well. And it goes in Rakdos, which is the very normal, you're attacking with stuff. You just want a 2/1 flyer to deal 2 damage as much as you possibly can. So yeah, I think this does have a place. Do I think it's great? No, I don't. I don't think this is phenomenal, but I think you can play it in those decks. But you have to have something else going on. Like if you don't have other creatures attacking, this does like basically nothing besides like block flyers, I guess. So there's that. But it's like a C. I think this is like a C. It goes in half of the decks, maybe. Maybe in Dimir, if you have like a flyer and you're pecking in with like your Wolf Bat, you get 2 more damage every turn. So that's kind of nice. But ultimately, I don't think it's fantastic. I don't think we're looking for this card, but I could see playing it and be totally fine playing this card. Next up, we have Tundra Tank, which is 2 and a black for a 4/4 artifact vehicle. It has Firebending 1. So when it attacks, you add red mana, and it lasts only during combat. And it says, when this vehicle enters, target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. And you can crew 1. So you can pay, you can tap a creature, power 1, and then it becomes a 4/4. But the 3 mana enter, give a creature indestructible is kind of interesting. We had a card similar to this that ended up being very strong. It didn't give it indestructible, but it really felt like that. Being able to attack with impunity for cheap is really frustrating. And then having this turn into a vehicle later is pretty all right. This is a regular vehicle, though. If it had to crew anything higher than 1, I think it would be horrendous and just unplayable. But I think you could play this card. I'm still probably going to give it like a C-. I'm not happy with it. I don't really want to put vehicles into my deck that much. I don't think the Firebender really pushes it over the edge. But having a 4-power creature in a deck that has a lot of little dudes that can't get in can be helpful. So I think this card's going to be annoying. It's being played against me, but I don't really like this type of card that much. So like a C-. Next up, we have Ozai's Cruelty, which is 2 and a black for a sorcery lesson. It says Ozai's Cruelty deals 2 damage to target player. That player discards 2 cards. Ooh, buddy. Look at his freaking abs. That's crazy. He's just like jacked. Obviously, a horrible moment in the show where Zuko gets scarred for life. But this mind rot effect, you don't always really see mind rots do anything. If they have some more duality, they can be nice. I like this idea of making your opponent like lose life when you play it. That's kind of cool. But ultimately, I think this is probably like a D. I don't think we want it too much. In general, mind rots don't really feel like they fit anymore. They keep trying to add extra things to it. Maybe dealing the 2 damage is enough. So it's like a, you know, I still don't like it that much. I think it's a D. I hope I don't have to play this. Lesson is helpful, but maybe it's like a D plus because it's a lesson, but ultimately I just don't think we should play this card. Next up, we have Ruinous Waterbending, which is 1 black for sorcery lesson. It says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, you may waterbend 4. It says all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. If this spell's additional cost was paid, whenever a creature dies this turn, you gain 1 life. So if you happen to have a lot of creatures that are going to die in this as well, you can waterbend them all, so tap them and you gain life. But I think ultimately we just want to play this as a -2/-2 to everybody. And -2, I never really feel like this gets there. You want to play this in like a controlling Dimir deck, but you don't want this in white-black, you don't want this in Rakdos, and you don't really want this in Golgari either. I think it has a spot in Dimir, but I don't think you have to take it very highly. It'll go fairly late. I think it's probably like a C- where it has utility, but yeah. Could also just be a D. I think you never really need to waterbend this card. It might be surprising every once in a while where it's like, oh, I need to gain some life, but ultimately, yeah. Yeah, I think it's just like a C-. Next up, we have Azula on the Hunt. Now, this is a card. 3 and a black for a 4/3 legendary creature, human noble, firebending 2. Whenever Azula attacks, you lose 1 life and create a clue token. When you're in combat, you get the clue token. You can use the firebending 2 to crack the clue to draw the card. So this really reads 4 mana 4/3. When you attack, you lose a life and you draw a card. Plus, you get sacrifice stuff. Awesome. I think this card's great. I love it so much. Yeah, this is like a B to me. I think this is awesome. If you see this, you're going to be like, wow, black cards are flowing. Let's pick up some Azulas. Let's get this game rolling. Let's draw some cards. Let's attack. I love it. Azula's a B. Man, what a sick card. I love the design of this so much. It all works exactly the way I want it to. And I just love it for that. Next up, we have Buzzard Wasp Colony, which is 3 and a black for a 2/2 creature, bird, insect. It has flying. It says, when this creature enters, you may sacrifice an artifact or creature. If you do, draw a card. And then whenever another creature you control dies, if it had counters on it, put its counters on this creature. Okay. Originally, this card looks kind of bad. 4 mana 2/2, it enters, you sacrifice something, and then you draw a card. Okay, that's fine. Then the rest of the text is like, oh, if you sacrifice a creature with counters on it, then you get to draw a card and put the counters on this buzzard, and so it's big. It doesn't do the sacrifice thing when it attacks. It only does it when it enters, so you only have 1 shot to get your card. That common does it every single time you attack, which is really nice. But the thing about this card is that it fits really nicely in the earthbending decks, because if you randomly have an earthbended thing somewhere, you could just sacrifice it, you get the land back for free, and you just move the counters over here, and then you draw a card. So if you happen to have like an earthbended 2 card from something, maybe your opponent has a 3/4 on the battlefield, and so it doesn't really attack anymore, it's just sitting there like tapping for mana, you just get to sacrifice that, put the 2 counters onto this buzzard, it becomes a 4/4, you draw a card, and your land comes back. All of that seems really exciting, but it has to be in that deck, and that really feels like a Golgari thing. So I don't know how many decks this card actually goes into, but in the deck it's in, I think it's like a B-. I think it's pretty good. The fact that you can draw cards with it, even if, you could also play this in white-black because you are just like sacrificing stuff and drawing cards, so that's nice. But the full effect of sacrificing one of your like smaller earthbended creatures, I think that just feels so strong. And if you have a bunch of earthbenders as well, you can just keep attacking, and then your opponent's like, well, if I trade off with this thing, it goes on the buzzard, and the buzzard's a flying threat, so what do I do? Take damage? Great. You're happy with all that stuff. So B- for this. There's more setup that has to go into it. Azula's just awesome, and this one's like cool if you can get it going. But I think it's actually better than I originally had thought. Next up, we have Low and Lie Twin Tutors. It is 4 and a black for a 2/2. 4 and a black for a 2/2. Legendary creature, human advisor. It says, when Low and Lie enter, search your library for a lesson or a noble card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And it says, noble creatures you control and lesson spells you control have lifelink. So the nobles we have seen primarily are like Zuko and Azula and creatures like that. And then lessons are in all the different colors. So 5 mana, 2/2, draw a card. And then the funny part about the lessons is like with this card, your Ozai's Cruelty does gain you 2 life, which is kind of funny. Your black card also deals damage and gains you life. But the body just feels so sad. I mean, I know they're all grandma ladies, and so they shouldn't be big, but I wish it did a little bit more. It does draw you a card. So that's what's really hard about this, is like it draws you a card, but it's a very specific card. Some of the lessons are pretty good. This with Azula is nice. It just gets your Azula. And then when you're attacking with your 4/3, it does have lifelink. And so then, the life loss that you're getting from Azula goes back into this. So there's something there, but it doesn't go like 3 into 4. This is like you play Azula and then play this. And then I guess Azula you play this, you draw a card, and then I guess Azula attacks, you draw another card. There's some deck building restrictions with this. Ultimately, I don't really like it very much. As far as tutors go, I think this is like a D. I don't really like this very much. I don't think we should play this card. I'm ready to be proven wrong. I know we want to draw cards in limited. I get that. But this one feels a little bit too narrow and too strange. And you also don't want to like just sacrifice it to something because it, presumably it does give your nobles lifelink, which, that is probably one of the best parts about this card if you happen to have a lot of nobles. But how many are we really playing? I don't really know. So I'm going to give this a D, and then someone's got to fight me with it. And I don't know. If I lose to this a bunch, then I might change my grade. But right now, I don't like him. Next up, we have Cat Gator, which is 6 and a black for a 3/2 creature, fish, crocodile. It has lifelink. And says, when this creature enters, it deals damage equal to the number of swamps you control to any target. It's funny that these black cards are dealing damage, but anyway. Okay, so there is a cycle of uncommons that all care about like having a certain land type. Obviously, they're trying to make monocolored decks a viable option. And I do think that Cat Gator, if you are playing mono black, you play this, you deal 7 damage to their face, and then you gain 7 life because it has lifelink. That is a huge swing. You could that's just like you winning the game. It is 7 mana, so, it could be kind of hard to get here, but if you're playing strictly mono black, this feels like a payoff. This feels like, hey, I played the card, I win the game. It just really does. The body's kind of small, but it does come in and kill something. If you're not playing mono black, let's say you're playing like a normal deck, this feels significantly worse. By the time you get to 7 mana, you could, you're probably either dealing 3 or 4 damage, which isn't probably enough to kill your opponent, but it does trade with another creature. It does kill another creature, and then, you might be able to stabilize a little bit because you're gaining some life. So I don't know. This feels kind of controversial. I'm going to consider that this card is being played only in mono black and really not in any other deck. So this grade that I'm giving it is if you're in mono black and you're dealing 7 damage and just smoking your opponent, and that is like a B- to me. I think that this is a 2 for 1, and you can just win. It obviously doesn't have flying. It kind of reminds me of when I said the flying part, I was talking about the Nebula Dragon from Edge of Eternities, because that card was really expensive, but ended up, there's the Bolt plus the 4/4 flyer ended up ending so many games. This isn't that because, it's module. So the ceiling is a little bit higher. Because, in Magical Christmas Land, you play Cat Gator, deal 7. The following turn, play another Cat Gator, deal another 7. And that would be just like game over. So I'm going to give this a B-. I like this card, but only in mono black. I think that in non-mono black decks, you probably don't want to play it. If you're heavy black, maybe in a Golgari deck, you could be okay. But most of the other decks don't want it. You don't want it in Rakdos, it's too expensive. Orzhov, too expensive. And Dimir, maybe, actually. If you do either a Dimir or a Golgari, like Reanimator deck or something like that. Golgari is kind of nice because you can just... Well, I guess you probably want to be base green so you can go fix your mana and whatever. So who knows? Who knows? But in mono black, it's a B-. That's what I'm going to say. Next up, we have the rares. And first off, we have May, Scornful Striker, which is 1 and a black for a 2/2 legendary creature, human noble ally. It has First Strike, and it says whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, they lose 2 life. So this is symmetrical. It's a player, so everyone. So how do we want to play with this in draft? It really looks like a standard card. It seems like this would be fantastic against VV. But outside of that, a 2-mana 2/2 First Striker is pretty good. We like that. You know, it is really hard to deal with. It's great to have early. It will hurt you because you will have to play non-creature spells to kill your opponent's stuff. So you will deal damage to yourself with this card. But hopefully you're aggressive enough that it doesn't matter. I think it's probably best in Rakdos, because Rakdos is just like play your creatures on the board. It's very aggressive. You keep attacking. When your opponent tries to kill this, you deal more damage to them. And so hopefully you can go fast enough to just like obliterate them, and you don't have to worry about your removal spells. / you don't actually care about your life total because you're the aggressor. So I think it's probably best in that. We really don't want this in Dimir. We don't want this in Golgari. And maybe we play this in Orzhov, but honestly, it really feels like a Rakdos card. So because of that, I think this is like a C+. I think this is a pretty cool card, but I don't think we have to first pick this. The 2-mana 2/2 First Strike body is the thing I'm most excited about, and then the non-creature spell thing is a little I don't know if we're really happy about that in draft or not. So C+ for May. Next up, we have Obsessive Pursuit, which is 1 and a black for an enchantment. It says when this enchantment enters and at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and create a clue token. And then whenever you attack, put X +1/+1 counters on target attacking creature, where X is the number of permanents you've sacrificed this turn. If X is 3 or greater, that creature gains lifelink until end of turn. Okay, so this enchantment feels a lot like a Phyrexian Arena, except for you're making clue tokens instead of drawing cards. You always have to lose the life. But, in your Orzhov deck that wants to be sacrificing stuff, this does give you fodder every single turn. It also works in your Dimir deck where you want to draw multiple cards because it's giving you all the clue tokens you can sacrifice, and you can choose when you want to, draw the second card. So maybe you could stack up a couple clue tokens, do it on your opponent's turn if that happens to be helpful for your game plan. Plus you can waterbend with them too. So maybe with some of these blue cards, it'd be nice. You just keep stacking up clue tokens and you waterbend things. But I think in Orzhov, mostly you'll be excited because you're going to be sacrificing other things anyway. So your creatures get really big. If you sacrifice everything pre-combat, then you get lifelink on that card as well. So it subsidizes, you're losing life every turn. So I think those are the decks we like the most. Those two. In Rakdos, you probably could, but maybe we want to just have like an actual creature because you want to be a little bit more aggressive. So this one might not be good enough. But drawing extra cards in Limited is always great. Just the fact you have to, sacrifice the clue makes it not as exciting. So maybe, or like Orzhov, yes. Dimir, probably. And then the other two decks, probably not as exciting. So I will give this like a B overall because I do feel like that's good. But I don't think every deck wants this ability. But it will be great in the decks that it's good in. Next up, we have Day of Black Sun, which is X black for a sorcery. Each creature with mana value X or less loses all abilities until end of turn. Destroy those creatures. Love it. I love cards like this. I like board wipes in Limited. They always come out of nowhere. You're never expecting them, and they do crush your opponents. I also like whenever you get to pick exactly which mana value you want to deal damage to, which is really nice. Losing all abilities means that all the dies triggers don't happen. You don't have to worry about the game ends because there's a bunch of creatures that died and then dealt damage to you or whatever. It also means that any indestructible creatures also die, whether that is applicable in this format. There's at least one card that can get indestructible, so this can kill that. Yeah, being able to kill all your opponent's stuff, but none of your stuff is really nice, of course. I just think this all kind of wraps up into an A. I like cards like this. I think they're really good. And if you open this in your sealed pool, you're going to be like, we did it. No aggressive deck is going to kill us. We don't have to pay any life to make this happen. It's just mana, which, you know, if their deck like stops, their curve stops at like 3 or 4, you're like, easy. Wipe the whole board. So A for Day of the Black Sun. Super sweet card. Next up, we have Boiling Rock Rioter. It's 2 and a black for a 3/3 creature human rogue ally with firebending 1. It says tap an untapped ally you control, exile target card from a graveyard. And whenever this creature attacks, you may cast an ally spell from among cards you own, exiled with this creature. All right. This is kind of confusing. So, like, you can tap your own allies to exile cards from a graveyard, but primarily you want to exile cards from your graveyard that are allies. Because when it attacks, you can cast ally spells from among them that are exiled that way. And I think this goes around timing restrictions because it tells you can cast it right then. So when you attack, the trigger goes on the stack and you get to like cast one of the allies that you own. But it has to be an ally you own, so you can't exile your opponent's allies in their graveyard to cast their spells. You have to cast your own spells. So you want allies that you have in your graveyard to then tap your other allies that are on the board. They're probably not this card, to go exile that card and then cast it with some of the firebending that you get from this card attacking. It's kind of a convoluted thing. It's very strange. The ally deck is kind of like a 5-color thing. There are a couple cards that care about that. I wonder how much of this actually just works well in your like Orzhov deck, where you're like, you have a bunch of creatures, some of them happen to be allies, you have to sacrifice them for different situations. They're in your graveyard, you tap other little dudes that are allies because there's a lot of ally tokens. Then you like exile that card, you get to cast it. There's like a big loop that like you can get value, but there's so many different moving parts that I don't know if it's fully worth the squeeze, but I think that it's probably like a B-, because if you do all that, you do get like value. It just kind of takes a lot of time. Actually going through this, I think we're probably going closer to like, let's give this a C+. I think ultimately it's probably going to play out closer to like a 3-mana 3/3 firebending 1. And then if you happen to ever get to play a card, then it moves up into the B range. But I just don't think that's going to happen that often. So, you know, and you'll probably only get to play 1 because your opponent's going to trade or kill this. So, yeah, C+ for the Boiling Rock Rioter. Sorry. I thought it was B for boiling, but no, it's C for meh. Next up is Raven Eagle, which is 2 and a black for a 2/3 creature bird assassin with flying. It says whenever this creature enters or attacks, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. If a creature card is exiled this way, create a clue token. And whenever you draw your second card each turn, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Yes. I like this card a lot. 3-mana 2/3 flyer. Enters and attacks, you get to exile your opponent's creatures from their graveyard, and then you make clue tokens. You get to sacrifice those. This goes in blue-black. This goes in black-white. This goes in black-red, and maybe black-green. I think you just want to play this in everything because it makes clue tokens, and it's fairly easy to just get that clue token. It just feels like a good card. You get to drain your opponent. You get to attack, not exactly with impunity, but it has flying, so you get to attack all the time. You get to do this multiple times. You draw a bunch of cards. This looks like a B+ to like an A-. I'm going to give it a B+, but I like this a lot. I think you can do a lot with it. And you do get to just like kill your opponent by drawing cards. Who doesn't want to do that, right? Who doesn't want to win the game by drawing cards? B+ for the Raven Eagle. I like this card a lot. Next up, we have Foggy Swamp Visions, which is 1 black for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may waterbend X. And you exile X target creature cards from graveyards. For each creature card exiled this way, create a token that's a copy of it. At the beginning of your next end step, you sacrifice those tokens. So this card's kind of strange. You have to waterbend X or it does literally nothing. So it does cost more than 3 mana. Or at least like you have to tap creatures to do stuff. And so you're exiling cards from graveyards and you're getting their ETBs or their dies triggers. Or I guess both. But you don't get to attack with them because they don't have haste. And this has sorcery speed, so your next end step is, literally at the end of the turn. It's kind of a funky thing because you don't get to make tokens to block. I guess you can make tokens and you trigger all your sacrifice stuff, or you get some stuff like some fodder to sacrifice while also getting some value from the tokens. It's kind of weird card I don't really know what to do with this exactly, what to make of it. I think it does have some utility, but I think we do get a lot of value from attacking in this format, and these cards can't do that. And it's a lot of mana to spend to then maybe have cards to like waterbend more stuff, or I guess like sacrifice them. So maybe white-black wants this and everybody else doesn't care. But really, I'm going to give this like a C-. I think you could play it. It might be a D though. It could easily be a D. It just doesn't feel that impactful. Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't do that much. So yeah, I'm just going to give it a D. I'm just going to be like, you know what? Don't play this card. It's weird. It seems really cool if you have like a whole situation set up where you want to bring two creatures back at the same time and they have a combo or something like that. But without that part of the card, for just general value, I feel like it's not really that good. I would not first pick this card, and I wouldn't take it. I would maybe test it for fun, but I don't think it does anything that exciting. So D for the Foggy Swamp Visions. Next up, we have the Fire Nation Drill. It's 2 black for a 6/3 legendary artifact vehicle. It has trample, and it says, when the Fire Nation Drill enters, you may tap it. When you do, destroy target creature with power 4 or less. Sweet. You can pay 1 mana, permanents your opponent's control, lose hexproof, and indestructible until end of turn. So you could do that in combination with playing it, tapping it, and paying the 1 to make sure the thing dies. And it has crew 2. All right, so before I was talking about vehicles and how I didn't really like them if they don't really do much else, but this card's pretty interesting. It is a 4-mana removal spell that then just turns into a big 6/3 trampler, which gets to deal some damage to your opponent, or at least trade with like 2 or 3 things. The permanents your opponent's control, lose hexproof and stuff, doesn't really matter that much. Though it does seem interesting, every once in a while your opponent will forget when you target their creature. They'll try to give it hexproof and then you just pay 1 so it loses it. So that's kind of cool. But ultimately, 4-mana removal spell for small things and then attack with a big thing. That's like a B. That's like a 2 for 1. Yeah, crew 2 is annoying, but not... If it was crew 3, it'd be obviously trash. Well, I mean, it would just be a 4-mana removal spell that just sits there. And this one actually has some utility. You could probably attack with it, which is pretty cool. So yeah, let's give it a B. I think it's totally playable. Nice little 2 for 1 there. Let's move on to the Mythics with another vehicle. Phoenix Fleet Airship is 2 black for a 4/4 artifact vehicle with flying. It says at the beginning of your end step, if you sacrificed a permanent this turn, create a token that's a copy of this vehicle. As long as you control 8 or more permanents named Phoenix Fleet Airship, this vehicle is an artifact creature. And it has crew 1. Okay, so a 4-mana 4/4 flying crew 1. Not really something we care that much about. But in the Orzhov deck, this is going to be awesome. I also think you could play this in Dimir as well, because you're sacrificing clue tokens. So you just play this card, and then if you can sacrifice something immediately, that'd be fantastic. So play this and then attack with something that has a sacrifice trigger or whatever. Then at your end step, you make another one. And then on your following turn, you sacrifice something else, and then you both of those cards will trigger, so then you have 4. And then on the following one, then you have 8. So it does take many turns for this to be really good, but once you have the 8, you just win the game, right? Which is awesome. I mean, there is situations where you get the 8 and you're like, sweet, it's my end step. I have 8 of them. They're all flying. Watch out for my giant fleet. And your opponent kills one of them and they all turn off, which kind of sucks. I guess in that response, you could crew a bunch of them for the turn. But it is kind of funny that it's one removal spell turns off all your airships, which just sucks. So I like the it feels really awesome. You're like, sweet, I'm going to crush my opponent. But it takes so long and it's so easy to kind of blow it over that, you know, if you're not happy with the 4 mana 4/4 flying crew 1, then maybe this card isn't for you. Though there is the other thing that you could do is if this comes down, it's like every time you sacrifice a permanent at your end step, you make another one of these that could be sacrificed to something else. So it does just keep getting fodder and you keep making more cardboard to be sacrificed, even if it's not attacking. And then eventually, if you have enough tokens, you can just crew them all and attack. So there is that. And it does have kind of a clock. I think it really fits in specific decks. I don't know if you want this in Rakdos, and I don't know if you want this in Golgari. Dimir is a maybe, because it's only your end step, so you can't double up on your opponent's end steps with your clues. And Orzhov would definitely be interested in this card. So I think I'm going to give this like a B. It doesn't really feel like an A. It needs a lot of stuff going around, and it needs to be kind of built around. But it does have potential. So let's give it a B minus, because it needs a lot of moving parts. But does have power. Next up, we have Ko, the Face Stealer. Creepy as heck. It is 4 black for a 6/6 legendary creature, Shapeshifter Spirit. It says when Ko enters, exile up to one other target creature. And whenever another non-token creature dies, you may exile it. May is really nice here. It also says you can pay 1 life, choose a creature card, exile with Ko, and Ko has all activated and triggered abilities of the last chosen card. So what I'm really looking at this card is that it's a 6 mana 6/6 that when it enters, it exiles a creature. So you immediately get your 2 for 1. You just get rid of something, right? Fantastic. Then, if it has any like relevant activated or triggered abilities, so like if it has fire bending, or if it has any sort of like water bending thing, or maybe it just has like a cool dies ability or something like that, an attack trigger, you could just pay 1 life and it becomes that thing. And you only have to pay the life once. It's not like it becomes that creature until end of turn. It just has it, which is super cool. And you get to turn off all your opponent's like dies triggers because you get to exile all of their non-token creatures, which is pretty nice. And also you don't have to like lose yours. I think there's a lot of stuff going on with this card. I think this is just a straight A. I think you'd love to play this card. Just the fact that it's a 6 mana 6/6 that kills a creature, that's good enough. And there's all the rest of it's just gravy. So yeah, A for Ko. Nice. I love when mythics are A's. It's really, it works. Next up, we have a great card. It's the Rise of Sozin. It's 4 black for a saga. It says chapter 1 is destroy all creatures. So blam, immediately destroy everything. And then chapter 2 is choose a card name, search target opponent's graveyard, hand, and library for up to 4 cards with that name, exile them, then that player shuffles. That one, not so exciting. It feels a little bit more flavorful. It's probably not going to do all that much besides like get rid of your opponent's stuff in their graveyard. You get to look at their hand. It doesn't like replace the card in the opponent's hand. So if they do happen to have one of the cards, if you happen to see it earlier, you just get to rip it out of their hand, which is really nice. But then after those 2 chapters happen, on the 3rd chapter, exile the saga, return it to the battlefield transformed under your control as Fire Lord Sozin, which is a 5/5 legendary creature, human noble with menace and firebending 3. And says whenever Fire Lord Sozin deals combat damage to a player, you may pay X. When you do, put any number of target creature cards with total mana value X or less from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So you wipe the board, so you have lots of cards in your opponent's graveyard, hopefully. You can get rid of anything that they're going to actually get any value from in the graveyard before you actually get to do anything with it. And then you get to attack them. They probably don't have enough creatures on the battlefield because at that stage of the game, they're probably top decking and don't have 2 creatures to block. You get 3 mana from the firebending plus the rest of your mana, which is at least 6. And then you get to just take all their creatures back. This is crazy. I already said I like board wipes. This is awesome. You're drawing so many of your opponent's cards. It's so strong. A+ for this card. Rise of Sozin is fantastic. I really want to play a lot of this card. It's going to be super cool, and I think Demir specifically will love it. So awesome. Just what a sweet card. Gosh, A+. Ooh, so much power. But anyway, folks, that is what I think about every single black card from the Avatar The Last Airbender set. Let me know what you think about all these cards, and if some of them I got completely wrong or which ones I was totally right about. I have videos for all the different colors, so check those out as well. But anyway, folks, I will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.